Hi guys, wanted to give you a little preview of a 4AG that we're building for ourselves. We really don't build them a bunch, and I'm kind of looking forward to this build because it's going to kind of be the first all-motor setup that we do. And it should be kind of cool. So here is the rod and piston assembly that we got. So it's a Brian Crower, their Brian Crower standard 4AGE rod. For the bigger crank pin, which would be, I guess, the turbo crank, or I'm sorry, the supercharged crank that everybody uses. And here's the piston we're going to be using. It's a 12-to-1 Trom piston, of course. And this is going to be a E85 setup, so really curious to see what this thing does on all motor. Next, I'm going to be ordering the ITBs, so I'm going to put some 48mm ITBs on this, some TWMs probably. Here's a picture of the video of the head that we did. It was in one of our previous videos. Alright, so here's a light where you can see the port a little bit better. This is the exhaust port. We did some pretty good porting in there. Bronze guides. So bronze guides. It's already been valve jobbed, resurfaced. See, all that's ready to go. It's actually what they call the big port head. So 4AG, you have two variations, small port, big port, and there's a lot of talk, I guess, on what's better for higher horsepower or normally aspirated, turbo, etc. But in my world, I don't know, bigger port always seems to be better, and that's kind of why I figured I was just going to stick with the big port head. So here's the intake port. After we got it all done and ready to go. So I don't know, again, super pumped to see what this thing will do. And I did some cam clearancing up here just to be sure that the cam we're going to use doesn't hit the lifter bore. So I just did that just in case. Alright, so here's the intake manifold we're going to be using. I still have to match port this to the head, but short runner. I actually got this from Australia, and for the big port, and I ordered up the ITBs, so I got some 48mm TWM ITBs on the way as well. So part 2 will show you. This will be all match ported to the cylinder head. ITBs will hopefully be here. I know they're a little bit back ordered right now. Along with everything else in this industry, everybody seems to be buying up everything. So here are the cams that are going to go in the motor. Just wanted to give you guys a shot of them out of the cylinder head before I put them in. Again, nothing too radical, not crazy. I mean, they are decent size. They're about 400 thousandths lift, 10mm. And they're gonna have about 292 advertised duration, roughly in that area. So hopefully this thing will be a rever. Should make some good power. So here's the crankshaft. I was checking all the clearances and getting ready to drop it in. Brand new Toyota, big journal, big rod journal crankshaft. So that way, when you guys see it running and we dyno it all, we all know exactly what kind of crank was in it, and nothing crazy like it's a 7A crank or a stroker, you know, things like that. So here's the crank, stock pulley just to get it all assembled, and that's it. Get it in the block and keep moving along. Here's the block prior to dropping the crank in it. So we had a clearance the cylinders with the Brian Crower rods because they weren't going to clear. So that's a note for anybody assembling a 4AG with Brian Crower connecting rods and the bigger rod journal on the crankshaft, that it has to be cleared prior to assembly. So all ACL race bearings, clearances are all checked, and now I'm going to drop the crank in it. All right, here's the block we got. So it's going to be a 40 over setup. Already been bored, honed. All right, moving along here, we got the crank in, got all the thrust set, and a lot of people might ask, why are we using factory main bolts and no reason to really run ARP studs for a normally aspirated application, especially this setup, I mean, I don't know, we have no idea what it's going to make for power, but we use a lot of factory main bolts in a lot of different applications. And man, Toyota builds a phenomenal bolt, so no reason to worry about, because if you put a stud, then you got to worry about the line bore getting distorted and all that. So we figured, let's keep it simple, see how it runs, and if it makes more power than we think, then if we got to tear it down, maybe that's something we can do, but I doubt it. But yeah, factory main bolts. I mean, this thing spins great. Since we know we didn't jeopardize any of the line bore with a stud. Brand new crankshaft, checked it out, it was perfectly straight as well. So all right, we're gonna move on to pistons next. We got the pistons in the block now, so give you guys an idea of the kind of dome that's on there. Kind of hard to see it, but you get an idea. You'd think for 12-to-1 it would have more of a dome, but 4AG's got a really tight combustion chamber, so that's where all the compression comes from. But yeah, man, this thing spins awesome. Really happy with it. And one of the things I didn't talk about before was it has a, since it's an all motor setup, we run a really low tension and really thin top ring. So it's only a 1 millimeter top ring, and then so on for the rest of the rings. Low tension oil ring, just so it has less resistance and frees up some horsepower. So stay tuned, guys. Comment what else you want to see on this build, and let me know down below. This will be part 1 of the series, so part 2 is I'll keep going with more assembly. I'm gonna get the cylinder head together and we'll go from there. Let me know what you want to see. All right, guys, see you later. Stay tuned, because this will be coming up next. We're going to put together a little build series of this TE27 Corolla with one of our 3S 5S engine packages, and this thing's going to be pretty radical. Should make about anywhere from 700 to max 800 horsepower. So this thing will be pretty wild. Going to be going off to Hawaii as well, so stay tuned with this build coming up.